John Parker loved quiet nights. After a long day at the engineering lab, he always looked forward to returning to his small suburban home. The streets were empty, the air calm, and the faint smell of grass and earth drifted through the open window. Tonight was no different. He stepped into his kitchen, stretching his arms. The soft hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the wall clock made the space feel alive in a comforting way. John had decided to cook something simple, a warm meal of pasta with vegetables and a bit of chicken. The aroma of garlic and tomato sauce filled the kitchen as he chopped and stirred, humming an old tune from his childhood. Outside, in the shadows near his back door, a figure moved. At first, John didn't notice it. The figure was unlike anything he had ever seen. Its skin shimmered faintly in the darkness like light reflecting on water. Its eyes were large, curious, and intelligent. The creature's shape was humanoid, but her proportions were unusual, slender, graceful, and almost glowing in the dim light. She had snuck into John's yard, drawn by the warmth and the smells of Earth food. The alien woman had been stranded on Earth after a navigational error sent her spacecraft off course. Her species, the Lirathi, survived on specific nutrients found in living plants and animals, but Earth's flora and fauna were unfamiliar. She had wandered for days, weak and hungry, until she smelled something new, something warm and inviting. John's cooking. With careful steps, she approached the window. Her hands were delicate, almost translucent, and she traced the glass, studying the human inside. She was wary but desperate. Hunger made her bold, and her eyes glimmered with determination. Inside, John finished chopping the vegetables and reached for the sauce. He turned suddenly, sensing something unusual. For a moment, he thought he imagined it, but then he saw movement out of the corner of his eye. A flash of shimmering light near the back door caught his attention. He froze. His heart pounded, and for a brief moment, fear took over. But John was not a man to panic easily. He carefully set down his knife and walked toward the door, trying to make sense of what he had seen. "Hello?" he called softly. No response. He reached for the door handle and opened it slowly. The night air was cool against his skin, and the quiet street stretched out before him. Nothing. Then, a soft sound, a barely audible whisper of movement, came from the side of the porch. John squinted and saw her. The alien woman crouched low, her luminous skin glowing faintly in the darkness. Her eyes met his, wide with fear and hunger. She didn't speak, but raised her hands slightly in what seemed like a gesture of peace. John froze again, but this time with curiosity. His mind raced with questions. What was she? Where had she come from? Was she dangerous? The alien woman's movements were slow, careful. She seemed to sense his hesitation and stepped closer, her gaze fixed on him, silently pleading. Hunger was evident in her posture, in the way she looked at him and the food behind him. John swallowed. He had never imagined a night like this. He considered locking the door and calling someone, but something in her eyes stopped him. There was no malice there, only desperation and hope. He decided to take a chance. Slowly, he gestured toward the kitchen. "Come in," he said softly. For a moment, she hesitated. Then, like a shadow, she moved inside, graceful and quiet. John stepped back, watching her carefully. She looked around the kitchen, her glowing eyes scanning everything. The smell of the food made her knees weak, and she moved closer to the table, glancing at him again. John smiled nervously. "You must be hungry." He washed his hands quickly and went back to the stove. "I can make something for you, don't worry." The alien woman tilted her head, a gesture that seemed almost human in its curiosity. She made a soft sound, almost like a whisper of wind, as if acknowledging him. Then she watched silently, standing a few feet away. John began to improvise. He had never cooked for anyone outside his family, and certainly never for a being like this, but he tried to think logically. "Okay, let's see," he murmured to himself. He chopped some vegetables, cooked the chicken, and prepared a small bowl with extra care. He placed it on the counter and stepped back. The alien woman approached it slowly, her movements careful and deliberate. She sniffed the food, her eyes widening. Then she touched it with one delicate finger. She tasted it, slowly at first and then with more confidence. Relief washed over her face. Her hunger was easing, her body relaxing. John watched, fascinated. He had never seen a reaction like this. She seemed to smile, though her lips did not move in a human way. The glow of her skin intensified, almost like a light turning on from the inside. "You like it?" John asked, his voice filled with wonder. Another soft sound came from her, a sound of affirmation. Then cautiously she picked up the bowl and took a small sip. She savored it, closing her eyes, and John noticed a small, almost childlike gesture. She placed a hand on her chest as if thanking him. John felt a warmth spread through him. He had never imagined feeding someone like this would feel so rewarding. He realized that humans had something special, the ability to connect, to help, to care, even for someone from another world. The alien woman finished the meal, and John prepared another small portion, learning quickly what she seemed to enjoy. He noticed her fascination with the simple tools he used, the knives, the cutting board, the stove. She touched them carefully, exploring their function without fear. They didn't speak the same language, but communication flowed through gestures, expressions, and the shared experience of food. John realized something important. Humans had a gift that went beyond technology or strength. They could make strangers feel safe even in the most unexpected situations. Hours passed, but John hardly noticed. He kept cooking, and the alien woman kept eating, her strength slowly returning. Her movements became more confident, her eyes brighter. She explored the kitchen, sometimes touching objects, sometimes watching John's work with curiosity. John laughed softly when she tried to stir the pasta with her long, delicate fingers. "Careful," he said. She paused, looking at him, then mimicked his motion correctly. They shared a small moment of laughter, an innocent human-alien connection. By midnight, the alien woman had eaten enough to regain some energy. She sat quietly on a stool, watching John clean up the kitchen. The bond between them was silent but strong. John knew that this was only the beginning. Outside, the night remained calm. The world slept, unaware of the extraordinary meeting that had just occurred in a quiet suburban kitchen. John felt a sense of wonder and responsibility. He had encountered someone entirely different, someone from another world, and yet he had managed to help her survive her hunger. The alien woman glanced at him, her glowing eyes full of something that seemed almost human. Gratitude. She leaned slightly toward him, as if to say, "Thank you." John nodded, smiling. "You're welcome," he said softly. Little did he know, this night would mark the start of a remarkable journey. A journey that would test the limits of human ingenuity, compassion, and courage. A journey that would show the galaxy why humans were not just another species, they were something extraordinary. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, painting the room in warm, golden tones. John had barely slept. The events of the previous night ran through his mind repeatedly. The alien woman was still in his kitchen, sitting quietly on the stool he had pulled closer to the counter. Her skin glimmered faintly in the early light, and she looked stronger than the night before. She had eaten well, but her eyes carried the memory of hunger and the strange fear of being in a world completely unknown to her. John approached cautiously, holding a small tray of warm water and a few more pieces of cooked vegetables. He placed it on the table. The alien woman turned her luminous eyes toward him, watching his every move, studying the human carefully. She did not speak, yet the gesture of offering food seemed to convey understanding. He sat opposite her and tried again to communicate. I'm John," he said slowly, pointing to himself. Then he pointed to her. Your name?" The alien made a soft, melodic sound that resonated in the room. She extended her hand, palm up, and then tapped her chest. It was clear she was trying to introduce herself. though John could not understand the exact words. He smiled gently, pointing to the tray. "Eat first," he said. "Then, talk?" She nodded, or at least something that resembled a nod, and carefully reached for the food. Each movement was cautious, like a bird testing the air before it flies. She took a bite and paused, letting the taste register. Then she ate more confidently. John watched her, fascinated. Every gesture, every expression told him something about her species, about her character. She was intelligent, curious, and cautious. As she finished the meal, she looked at John and made a sound, a soft hum. Then she pointed to her stomach, then to him, and finally to the food. It was clear. She was thanking him. John chuckled softly. "You're welcome," he said, feeling a strange connection growing between them. After a moment, he stood and walked to the counter. He grabbed a notebook and a pen, thinking that perhaps they could communicate through writing or drawings. He sketched a simple picture of a house, a person, and a bowl of food. Then he pointed at the drawing and at the alien woman. She tilted her head, looking at the sketch carefully. Then she lifted her hand and made marks in the air, forming shapes that glowed faintly before fading. It was her language, a pattern of symbols and light. John watched in awe. "This is amazing," he whispered. "You can write with light?" She made a sound that seemed like laughter, her glowing skin pulsing rhythmically. She reached out and traced a shape on the notebook, pointing at the bowl. John nodded, understanding that she wanted to show something about food, perhaps ingredients or taste. Over the next few hours, John and the alien woman worked to build a shared understanding. He drew simple shapes and symbols. She responded with light patterns and gestures. Slowly, they began to convey basic ideas: hunger, water, rest, and curiosity. They laughed. Well, John laughed, and she made melodic sounds in response. Each small success brought a sense of joy and accomplishment. By midday, the alien woman had regained much of her strength. She moved around the kitchen, exploring with delicate hands. She touched the fridge, the stove, and even the sink, testing how they worked. John watched, fascinated. She approached the cutting board and held a vegetable in her hand. Then she looked at him, pointing to the knife. "Careful," John said with a smile. He demonstrated how to chop safely. She observed, then mimicked his actions with surprising precision. John realized that her species must be highly intelligent. The way she learned through observation, the curiosity in her eyes and the care in her movements, all spoke of an advanced mind. As the day passed, they discovered more ways to communicate. John drew shapes and objects, and she responded with gestures or glowing patterns. Sometimes she pointed to herself, sometimes to him, indicating preferences, emotions, or questions. They learned that they could understand each other without words, using empathy, observation, and shared experiences. Around late afternoon, John decided to show her a little about human technology. He brought out his small toolkit and explained, with gestures and drawings, how simple machines worked. She watched intently, her glowing eyes wide with fascination. When he demonstrated a small lever and pulley system, she reached out, experimenting with it herself. Her movements were careful but precise, and soon she was lifting small objects using the tool, her face glowing with satisfaction. John realized something remarkable. Humans were not the only intelligent species, but the way humans combined curiosity, creativity, and empathy made them special. Even this alien from a far-off world could sense it. She seemed to trust him, learning not just from observation but from the safety and encouragement he provided. By evening, John cooked another meal. This time, he prepared a simple soup with vegetables and grains, knowing it would be easier for her to digest. She tasted it carefully, then her glowing skin pulsed brighter, a clear sign of contentment. John laughed softly. "You like it?" he asked. She hummed in agreement and leaned slightly toward him, as if to express thanks. Later, they sat quietly in the kitchen. The alien woman observed him, her eyes scanning his face, his hands, and the simple objects around them. John noticed her attention to detail. She was learning not just about food, but about humans, about the way they lived, and about their intelligence. "Do you miss home?" John asked gently, though he knew she might not understand. She tilted her head and traced a small circle in the air, then pointed to the window and the sky. He understood. Yes, she missed her planet, her people, and her home. But there was also a sense of wonder in her eyes, a curiosity about this strange new world. John nodded. "I get it," he said softly. "Earth is different." He realized that despite the fear and uncertainty, she was brave. She had survived alone, found her way here, and now trusted a human enough to eat, learn, and explore. That bravery, that resilience was something humans understood, and perhaps shared. As night approached, John prepared a small sleeping area for her on the floor near the kitchen. He placed a soft blanket and a few cushions. She curled up carefully, glowing softly, and seemed to relax fully for the first time since arriving on Earth. John watched her, feeling a sense of pride. He had helped someone from another world survive, and in return he had learned something extraordinary about intelligence, trust, and friendship. Before leaving the kitchen, John cleaned up and glanced at the alien woman. Her glowing eyes met his. It was not just a look of thanks, it was a look of understanding. They had shared something remarkable, a silent bond that did not rely on words, but on empathy, patience, and care. John realized that humans had a unique gift. They could connect with others, even beings from distant stars, through kindness, understanding, and intelligence. That gift had created this bond tonight, and he knew it would shape everything that came next. Outside, the night was calm again. The streets were quiet, and the stars shone brightly in the sky. John stepped to the window and looked up, thinking about the vastness of the universe and the strange, luminous being now sleeping in his kitchen. He wondered what her world was like, what her people thought of humans, and whether they would ever meet again. For now, though, there was peace. Human and an alien had found understanding, bridging the gap between worlds through food, curiosity, and trust. And in that simple kitchen, the first threads of an extraordinary friendship were woven, threads that would grow stronger as they faced the unknown together. John smiled softly to himself. He did not know what the future held, but he knew one thing clearly. Humanity had something special to offer even to beings from the farthest reaches of the galaxy. And perhaps, just perhaps, the universe was about to notice. The next morning, John woke to soft light spilling across the kitchen floor. The alien woman was already awake, sitting near the table, watching him carefully as he moved about. Her luminous skin pulsed faintly with a gentle glow, like the light of dawn. She tilted her head curiously, observing everything John did, from pouring coffee to arranging his tools on the counter. John smiled, feeling a strange comfort in her presence. Despite her alien appearance, there was a familiarity in the way she watched him, as though she wanted to understand not just his actions but the reasoning behind them. He realized humans had a rare gift, the ability to teach, to guide, and to share knowledge in a way that transcended words. "Good morning," John said softly, gesturing to the small breakfast he had prepared. "Eat first." She made a soft hum and moved toward the food, pausing as she observed the utensils. Carefully, she picked up a spoon and tried it, tilting her head at the sensation. John chuckled. "Close enough," he said. "You'll get it." As she ate, John decided it was time to take a small step further in their communication. He grabbed a notebook and began drawing again. This time, he sketched simple objects: a cup, a chair, and a window. He pointed at each one and said the word aloud. She watched, glowing lightly with curiosity. Then she raised a hand and drew patterns in the air, symbols that shimmered and shifted. John studied them carefully. "I don't understand the exact meaning," he admitted. but I think it's similar to what I drew. You can describe things visually. She responded with a soft hum, leaning closer to demonstrate. Her fingers traced the shapes of a chair, a table, and a window in midair. John realized her species used light as language, a complex, elegant system. But more than that, she was trying to connect with him, to bridge the gap between their worlds. By mid-morning, they had reached a new understanding. John showed her how to pour liquid safely, how to slice vegetables, and even how to boil water without spilling. She watched attentively, her glowing hands carefully mimicking each motion. Every small success made her pulse brighter with a sense of achievement. Then she did something unexpected. She picked up a small tool from John's counter, something he had used for measuring ingredients, and examined it closely. With careful movements, she combined it with another tool, creating a small device that worked in a way John had not anticipated. He blinked in surprise. "That's clever," he said, smiling. "You improved it." She looked at him, glowing, more brightly than before. It was clear she was proud of her creation. John felt a rush of admiration. Humans were inventive, yes, but seeing ingenuity reflected in another species made him realize that intelligence and creativity were universal. But what set humans apart was their willingness to share, teach, and collaborate. Lunch approached, and John decided to introduce her to one of Earth's simplest pleasures, sandwiches. He prepared a small one, showing her each step. She watched, then attempted it herself. The first attempt was messy, cheese on the floor, bread sticking to her glowing fingers. But John laughed, encouraging her. On the second try, she succeeded, perfectly, handing him a neatly made sandwich with a delicate nod. "Excellent," John said, laughing. "You're a natural." After lunch, John suggested they move beyond the kitchen. He led her into the living room, a space filled with books, pictures, and gadgets. Her eyes widened as she observed everything. She reached out to touch the books, flipping pages delicately. She tilted her head at the pictures, making soft sounds that seemed like wonder and curiosity. John picked up one of his old engineering manuals. "This shows how machines work," he explained. He demonstrated a simple mechanism using a small model. She leaned closer, her glowing hands tracing the parts, understanding instantly. Her species was clearly intelligent, but humans had the ability to teach, to simplify complex ideas, and to make learning accessible. As the afternoon passed, John taught her more about human tools, simple physics, and even small experiments with water and magnets. She learned quickly, but she also contributed her own ideas, using her light patterns to indicate modifications. John was amazed by her adaptability and intelligence. Together they created small devices and mechanisms, learning from each other in a silent, fluid dance of knowledge. During a break, they sat by the window and watched the world outside. Birds flew by, unaware of the extraordinary friendship being formed inside the house. John realized how rare this moment was, an alien being, far from home, learning from a human, and in return, teaching John about her world and abilities. Curiosity sparked between them in a way that transcended species. John wanted to understand more about her home planet, her culture, and the technology she had seen. He pointed to the sky and made a small spinning gesture with his hand, indicating planets and stars. The alien woman's eyes brightened, and she produced a small holographic image from her wrist device, a gift she had carried hidden beneath her clothing. John gasped. The hologram showed a vivid alien world with glowing plants, floating cities, and creatures unlike anything on Earth. She gestured to him, showing how people moved, communicated, and lived on her planet. John listened carefully, absorbing every detail. He marveled at the differences, but also at the similarities: the care for family, the curiosity about the universe, the intelligence that guided their actions. "You. Home," John said softly, pointing at the hologram and then at her. She nodded, her glow pulsing warmly. John realized that despite being from different worlds, beings shared the same desires: to survive, to learn, and to connect. Later in the evening, John cooked another meal. This time he prepared something richer, using ingredients that might be new to her but safe. She tasted each item cautiously, then gave a soft, approving hum. John smiled. Each bite, each shared moment, deepened their silent friendship. After dinner, he set up a small demonstration of Earth's night sky. Using a simple telescope, he showed her the moon, planets, and distant stars. Her eyes widened as she peered through the lens. She reached out to touch the telescope, adjusting it carefully, and John guided her hand. Together they explored the heavens. She made soft sounds of excitement and wonder, and John laughed in delight. In those quiet hours, John realized something profound. Humans had a unique combination of traits: empathy, curiosity, and resilience. These traits allowed them to bridge the impossible gap between species. Here was an alien being, lost and hungry, yet able to learn, adapt, and trust a human. And here was John, able to teach, guide, and connect, despite not fully understanding her language or technology. Night fell, and John prepared a small space for her to rest again. This time, he placed a few small devices she had created beside her, as if to encourage her continued learning and exploration. She touched them gently, her glow pulsing with contentment, before curling up under the blanket. John sat nearby, reflecting on the day. He had learned so much about her species, her intelligence, and her resilience. But more importantly, he realized that humans had something rare: the ability to teach, nurture, and connect across boundaries. This gift was not just about knowledge, it was about kindness, trust, and understanding. As he looked at the sleeping alien woman, John felt a quiet pride. Humanity's strengths were subtle but powerful: ingenuity, compassion, and the courage to reach out to strangers, even those from distant worlds. And in this quiet suburban home, these strengths had created something extraordinary: a friendship that could span galaxies. The alien woman stirred in her sleep, reaching out her glowing hand slightly toward him. John smiled softly, understanding her gesture. She was safe, she was learning, and she was beginning to trust. And in return, he was learning too, about courage, patience, and the infinite possibilities that lay when two intelligent species met with curiosity and respect. Outside, the stars twinkled silently. The universe was vast, full of unknown worlds and unknown beings. Yet here, in a small living room on Earth, a human and an alien had discovered something remarkable: that understanding, learning, and friendship were universal, capable of crossing even the greatest distances. John whispered softly, more to himself than to her. One day the galaxy will know what humans can do. Night had settled over the quiet suburban neighborhood. John sat in the living room sipping tea while the alien woman rested nearby. Her glow had dimmed to a soft, comforting light, but her eyes remained alert, watching him with curiosity and trust. John felt a sense of calm, believing they had finally reached a peaceful routine. Suddenly, a strange vibration filled the air. The alien woman stirred, her glow intensifying in alarm. John noticed her tense posture and looked toward the window. High above, a craft unlike anything from Earth hovered silently, its metallic surface shimmering in the moonlight. The alien woman's glow flared brightly as she rushed to the window, pressing her hands against the glass. John's heart raced. "What is it?" he asked, but she could only make urgent hums and gestures. He watched as her hands formed quick, glowing patterns in the air, a warning. John's mind worked fast. Whatever was approaching, it was not friendly. The craft landed, quietly in the yard behind his house. A ramp extended, and several figures stepped out. They were of her species, taller and more intimidating than the woman he had helped. Their eyes glowed sharply, and their movements were precise, almost mechanical. John could see the suspicion in their posture. They clearly did not trust humans. The alien woman stepped forward, placing herself between John and the newcomers. She made soft, continuous hums, gesturing to him to stay back. John realized that these were her people and they had come for her, but their eyes scanned him with disdain. They seemed to regard humans as primitive, dangerous, and unworthy of trust. John swallowed his fear. I don't want trouble," he said slowly, holding his hands up. "We're friends. I helped her. I can explain." The alien woman glowed brightly, her pulse quickening. She pointed toward John, then toward the newcomers, making rapid patterns in the air. John interpreted the gesture as a plea. She trusted him and she needed him to act. The figures approached cautiously. One of them, larger than the others, stepped forward. Its eyes were narrow, scanning John and the room with suspicion. It did not speak, but John could sense its authority. He realized that reasoning with them would require more than words. It would require proof of human intelligence, ingenuity, and goodwill. John took a deep breath and gestured to the kitchen. "Food," he said simply, pointing to the table where he had prepared a small tray. "Safe. Help. Show." His words were clumsy, but his gestures were clear. The alien woman added her glowing patterns, demonstrating what he meant, emphasizing that he had saved her and that humans could be trusted. The larger alien studied them silently. John could feel its scrutiny, the weight of judgment pressing down. Then it gestured sharply, commanding the others to pause. It stepped closer to the window, examining John's home, the devices, the tools, and the small devices the alien woman had made with him. It was analyzing everything. John realized he had to act fast. He retrieved a small tablet from his counter, connected to a portable computer he had built. He began displaying his engineering schematics, his inventions, and examples of human problem-solving. He showed them how he could improve efficiency, repair machines, and create tools from simple materials. His gestures and explanations were basic, but clear. The larger alien watched closely. Its glow dimmed slightly, as if processing the information. Then it made a soft sound, a low hum that resonated in the air. The alien woman responded with her own patterns, showing agreement. Slowly, the newcomers seemed less hostile, though they remained cautious. John realized something important. Humans had a unique ability to demonstrate intelligence and goodwill through action, not just words. The alien woman had trusted him enough to eat, learn, and work with him, and now he was showing her people the same. It was a test of ingenuity, courage, and empathy. Suddenly, one of the newcomers reached toward the alien woman, as if to take her by force. She flared her glow and made a sharp, warning hum. John reacted instinctively, stepping forward and placing himself between them. He held out his hands, showing no threat, and gestured to the tablet again. He tried to convey that humans were capable, intelligent, and deserving of trust. The larger alien stepped closer, observing John carefully. Its glow pulsed in rhythm, and John sensed that it was evaluating him, not just as a human, but as a problem solver, a being capable of reasoning, empathy, and courage. He continued to demonstrate, showing quick sketches, simple mechanisms, and improvisations he had done over the past days. Time seemed to stretch. John could feel the tension in the room, the silent test of judgment. Then slowly, the larger alien stepped back. Its glow softened and it gestured toward the others. They relaxed slightly, though their eyes never left John or the alien woman. John exhaled, realizing that he had passed the first challenge. He had shown that humans were capable of intelligence, innovation, and kindness, even to beings from distant worlds. He looked at the alien woman, who glowed faintly with relief and gratitude. The larger alien finally stepped forward, speaking in a series of melodic hums that John could not understand. The alien woman responded quickly, using her glowing patterns to explain John's actions, his help, and his trustworthiness. The two conversed silently, their light patterns weaving a dialogue full of meaning. Finally, the larger alien gestured to the alien woman, signaling that she could return with them. But she hesitated, looking at John. Her eyes conveyed a choice. She had a chance to go home, but she had also found something valuable here: trust, care, and friendship with a human. John stepped closer, lowering his hands. "It's okay," he said gently. "You decide. You choose." The alien woman's glow pulsed slowly. She looked at John, then at the larger alien, and then back at him. Finally, she made a decision. She would return home, but she would carry the memory of humanity's kindness and intelligence with her. She made soft, melodic sounds, and John understood. She would leave, but the bond between them would remain. The larger alien observed silently, clearly surprised by her choice. It had expected her to obey without question, to return immediately. Instead, she had acted with independent judgment, inspired by trust in a human. It seemed to hesitate, then finally nodded, accepting her decision. John helped her to the ship, showing her the safest path and offering gestures of support. She touched his hand briefly, a soft glow pulsing from her skin, a final gesture of thanks. John smiled, feeling the weight of their shared experiences: hunger, trust, learning, and now, courage. As she entered the ship, the larger alien approached John. It emitted a low hum, a sound that John interpreted as acknowledgement. Perhaps it was respect. Perhaps it was understanding. John realized that humans had something powerful, something that even advanced alien species could recognize: empathy, intelligence, and the courage to act wisely in unknown situations. The ship's ramp retracted, and the craft lifted silently into the night sky. John watched as it disappeared into the stars, carrying with it a message that humans were capable of extraordinary acts, even in the face of alien scrutiny. He returned to his house, feeling a mixture of pride and sadness. The alien woman was gone, but the lessons of the past days remained. Humanity's strength lay not only in technology or survival skills, but in the ability to build trust, to act with compassion, and to demonstrate intelligence through action. John cleaned up the kitchen slowly, reflecting on the events. He realized that this encounter had changed something in him. Humans were often underestimated by other species, but their ingenuity, empathy, and courage set them apart. And in a quiet neighborhood on Earth, he had proven it. As he looked out the window at the stars, John felt hope. One day humanity would meet more of the galaxy, and when they did, they would not be seen as primitive or weak. They would be seen as capable, clever, and compassionate, and perhaps the galaxy would begin to understand what he had discovered in the past few days: that humans were truly extraordinary. In the quiet of the night, John whispered softly to himself, "We're ready. The universe. We'll see what humans can do." Outside, the stars twinkled as if in agreement. The alien woman's ship traveled far, but the bond they had formed, the lessons they had shared, and the trust they had built would linger. Proof that even across worlds, understanding, courage, and kindness could create bridges that nothing could destroy. John sat quietly for a long time, thinking of the alien woman. He knew she would tell her people of the humans who had helped her, the Yokyo, human who had cooked, taught, and protected, and he knew that one day perhaps others would come to Earth, curious about this species capable of empathy, ingenuity, and bravery. For now, though, he returned to his quiet home, proud to be human, ready for whatever the universe might bring next. The first light of dawn crept across the quiet suburban street. John Parker sat on the porch sipping a cup of coffee, his eyes on the sky where the alien woman's ship had disappeared the night before. The neighborhood was still asleep, unaware of the extraordinary events that had unfolded, but John could not stop thinking about her. The glowing figure that had sneaked into his kitchen, hungry and lost, and the remarkable days they had shared. Inside, the house felt emptier than ever. The kitchen, once filled with the sound of chopping, cooking, and laughter, now echoed with silence. Yet John did not feel sadness alone. He felt pride, a quiet sense of accomplishment. He had done something extraordinary without even realizing it at first. He had helped a stranger from another world survive, thrive, and trust a human, and in return, He had learned more about the universe, intelligence, and friendship than he had ever imagined. Suddenly, a soft vibration came from the living room. John turned, seeing a small device glowing faintly on the table. It was a gift, left by the alien woman before she departed, a device that recorded images, sounds, and knowledge. From her world, she had entrusted him with a piece of her culture, a symbol of their bond. John picked it up carefully, examining the holographic images that shimmered above the device. There were scenes of her planet, glowing cities floating among clouds, vast forests illuminated with bioluminescent plants and creatures moving gracefully through the air and land. He watched in awe as the alien woman herself appeared in recordings, teaching others, exploring, and showing a curiosity similar to his own. "This is incredible," John whispered. "She trusted me with all of this." He realized that humans had something rare and powerful, the ability to build trust quickly, to show empathy, and to teach and learn without judgment. He thought back to the meals they had shared, the tools they had built together, and the silent understanding they had developed. Humanity's strength lay not only in intelligence or skill, but in the courage to act wisely and kindly in unfamiliar situations. Over the next few days, John explored the device, learning more about her world and culture. He watched her teach, create, and interact with her people. It was a reminder of how fragile life could be and how remarkable connections between different species were. John realized that the universe was full of beings like her, intelligent, curious, and capable. But humans had a unique gift, the ability to inspire trust, friendship, and collaboration even across galaxies. Word spread quickly through her species. The alien woman had returned home safely, and she shared stories of a human who had helped her survive. She told them of his intelligence, his creativity, and his compassion. She explained how he had taught her, guided her, and acted with courage in the face of uncertainty. Slowly, whispers of curiosity and respect for humans began to ripple across her planet. John, unaware of the growing reputation he and humanity were gaining, continued his life quietly. He returned to his kitchen, preparing meals as he had before. But now, every simple action, the stirring of a pot, the chopping of vegetables, the smell of freshly baked bread, reminded him of the alien woman and the extraordinary bond they had formed. One evening, as John sat on the porch watching the sunset, he felt a soft vibration on the device. A new holographic message appeared. It was the alien woman, speaking directly to him through glowing patterns that shimmered in the air. She conveyed gratitude, respect, and a promise. She would continue to tell her people about the humans who had shown courage, intelligence, and kindness. John smiled softly. "Thank you," he whispered. He realized that their brief time together had changed something, not just in him but in the perception of humanity across an entire species. Humans were no longer unknown, underestimated, or overlooked. They were clever, compassionate, and capable of inspiring trust across worlds. As days turned into weeks, John noticed subtle changes in his life. He began thinking differently about humans, about Earth, and about the galaxy. If one being from another planet could recognize human ingenuity and kindness, what could happen when more discovered it? He imagined explorers arriving, scientists visiting, and civilizations curious about what humans could achieve. But John's pride was quiet and personal. He didn't seek recognition or fame. His joy came from knowing that humanity had shown its best qualities: intelligence, empathy, and courage. He thought of the alien woman, and he knew that she would carry those lessons with her wherever she went. Months later, John received a small transmission on the device. It was brief but powerful, a series of light patterns showing a fleet of ships preparing for exploration. The alien woman had shared stories of humans with her people, inspiring them to consider alliances, trade, and cultural exchange. Humanity had left a mark, and the universe was beginning to take notice. John reflected on the journey that had begun with a simple act: offering food to a hungry, lost alien woman. That act of kindness had led to friendship, learning, and recognition of humanity's unique strengths. It was proof that humans could make a difference not just on Earth but across the galaxy. He walked into the kitchen and started preparing dinner, humming softly to himself. He imagined the alien woman watching, smiling and remembering the meals, the lessons, and the trust they had shared. Every chop of a knife and every stir of a pot was a reminder that small acts could have extraordinary consequences. As night fell, John stepped outside once more. The stars shone brilliantly, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the endless possibilities it held. He realized that humanity's journey was just beginning. There would be challenges, encounters, and adventures beyond imagination. But if humans could act with courage, intelligence, and compassion, they could thrive, inspire, and even shape the perceptions of other species across the galaxy. John looked at the horizon, feeling a sense of calm determination. Humanity had shown its best qualities to a being from another world, and now the universe would see what humans were truly capable of. In that quiet moment, John whispered to the stars, "We're ready. The galaxy is ready." The alien woman's presence lingered in his memory, her glowing eyes, her gentle hums, and the silent bond they had shared. She had taught him as much as he had taught her, and together they had demonstrated something extraordinary. That understanding, kindness, and intelligence were universal, capable of bridging even the greatest distances between species. As the night deepened, John returned inside, the device glowing softly on the counter. He placed it carefully next to the kitchen table, a symbol of their friendship and the extraordinary journey they had shared. And in the quiet hum of his suburban home, John Parker felt a quiet pride, knowing that humanity had begun to leave its mark on the universe, not through war or domination, but through empathy, intelligence, and courage. And somewhere among the stars, the alien woman carried that mark with her, telling her people the story of the human who had fed her, taught her, and shown that humanity was capable of something truly remarkable. The galaxy was vast and full of unknown wonders, but John knew that humans were ready. The universe would remember them, not as weak or primitive, but as clever, compassionate, and extraordinary. And it all had begun in a quiet kitchen, with a hungry alien woman and a human who chose to help.